Hey everybody, this is Tyler. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can do advanced sprite projectile interactions. So as my base code, I'm using the code from the Galaga tutorial on the MakeCode website, where projectiles are just spawning from the other side of the screen. But what if we want to have another sprite, like a boss character, also shooting projectiles out? Similar to this one, where it's similar, we can move around, we can shoot, but it's also activating its own projectiles. All right, so let's get started. Let's see how we can do this in MakeCode. So as I mentioned, I started out with the Galaga tutorial as my base code, just to kind of get sprites and movement and projectiles set up. And then I modified it, and I'm going to show you exactly how I did that to create the program that I showed before. So once I removed all the extra code that I didn't want, this is what I was left with. And this is going to be my starter code for this tutorial. So if you want to follow along, use the link in the bottom to open this code up. So a lot of it will be familiar from the Galaga tutorial, but I've added a boss character, which is this one over here in the screen. And I set a starting position for it. That is the biggest change. So let's get started by adding a projectile that is going to come from this boss character. And we've already got set up our own projectile coming from our sprite. Now let's set up for this other one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in a game update, because what we want to do is the boss to kind of shoot automatically. We want that to be automated. That's not something we're going to control. And game update is the best block for doing something along those lines. So I'm going to set it up where it shoots out every second. And we're going to go up to sprites, and we are going to say in a projectile section, so a projectile from my sprite. And we're not going to pick my sprite, since that one doesn't exist. We're going to click boss character. And we are going to set it up. So I kind of like the idea of a big asteroid shooting out little meteors, and that's what I'm going to pick here. And I'm going to rename this meteor. Just kind of keep things straight. This will make sense down the road. Okay, and you see it's automatically doing that every second, but it's shooting out at a weird angle. So we need to change our velocity, and since we only want it to go left, we're going to turn this Y, because Y controls up and down, to 0. And then now you should see it shooting to the right. And to make it shoot to the left, we're going to make this a negative number. So I'm just going to start out with negative 50. You can pick whatever you want. So, okay, now we've got this going on. But we need to have our sprite interact with it, and we need to have our projectiles interact with both the smaller sprites, the projectile, the meteors, and our boss character. And that's where kind of this advanced thing comes in, because before we were only dealing with one type of projectile instead of two types of enemies, and it was easy to control that. But now we need to make this a little more advanced. So I'm going to go down to our overlap section, and this is essentially what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using these overlap sections to control what happens when our sprite interacts with another sprite. So first step is we're going to do, let's have these meteors interact with our sprite. That's the easiest. So on kind player, which is what our sprite player character is of kind player, overlaps with another sprite of kind projectile. So we need to pick a new, what is this kind right here? And we can see our meteor right here is of kind projectile. So we could pick that. But if you also notice, our laser is also of kind projectile. So this is going to create some, if we pick both of these, it's going to kind of create a weird situation. So, because if we do our kind of classic, when we touch something, we click destroy. If we say destroy other sprite, So of kind player overlaps with another sprite of kind projectile, it's going to destroy their sprite. If we play this, you'll see that our projectiles aren't even shooting. You know, we're getting rid of the meteors, which is what we want, but it's not even shooting. And if we add a subtract life here, which is what we want to happen when we hit a meteor, you'll notice that when we shoot our own projectile, it is subtracting a life. But this is happening correctly. So what we want to do is we want to say not projectile, and I'm just going to use the basic one in here right now, the built-in kind, and it's going to be called enemy. So this will solve our problem, but now our sprites are not interacting, but it's solving our problem with our own projectiles. So what we need to do is every time we make a new projectile meteor, we need to set this to the kind enemy. And we can go back up to sprites, and we can say set my sprite to kind player. We want this block right here, and we're going to change this. We're going to say meteor to kind enemy. Now let's test this out. So remove. Our projectiles are shooting out like properly and not subtracting our own life. We get down here, it is interacting exactly how we want to. So, and this is kind of how to get into this advanced interaction, and we can declare kind enemy. So our next step is to add another one of these blocks here that allows our sprite to interact with the meteors to destroy them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another one of these overlap blocks, and I'm going to grab of kind enemy, overlaps with another sprite of kind player, and so we don't want player here. What we want is kind projectile, because that is what our laser is. Our projectile is of kind projectile right here. And we want to destroy that sprite. So we want to destroy the other sprite. You know, we can add effect in here. I kind of like doing the fire. I'm going to change this down to 100 milliseconds though. And let's see what happens. So it is destroying our projectiles, but it's not actually destroying this enemy projectile. So what we want to do is we're going to grab another one of these destroy blocks, and what we're going to do is we're going to pop this in here. And what this is doing is saying of a kind sprite, so the sprite that overlaps, the sprite that is kind enemy that overlaps with another sprite of kind projectile, which is ours, it is going to destroy that sprite that's interacting, which is important because we have so many different meteors coming out. We need to know which one we actually want to destroy, not all of them. So the sprite does exactly that. And there we go. So we are exactly where we want to be. And you'll notice too that it's not actually interacting with the boss. Our sprites are not interacting with the boss. And what we want to do is also take damage, give damage to the boss. So we need a third one of these. So we're going to go back down, grab an overlap. And what I did before we started is I created a new kind. So when I created this boss character, I created a sprite and I made it to of kind boss. And I did that just simply by creating a new kind in here. I typed it in. And it's clicked OK. So since I already created of kind boss, so now we can do, so on sprite of kind boss overlaps with another sprite of kind projectile. We can now add a destroy in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to destroy the other sprite, which is the projectile. And you'll notice now, when our sprite hits the boss, it doesn't actually destroy it. And if we wanted to, we could add this fire effect in here as well. And we could additionally give the boss damage. We haven't set this up yet, and that's beyond this tutorial that we're going into right now, but we could add a life system for the boss. And we do have a tutorial made to do exactly that. So the link is in the description for that one as well, and it'll show you how you can make this boss move, and also a tutorial how to show you make the boss move, and a tutorial how to give the boss extra life. So I hope you found this helpful. As an advanced way, you can make advanced projectiles for your game, including both a boss projectile and a player projectile. So thanks for watching.